The war in Vietnam is unlike any war Americans have fought before. Its demands for close fire support are enormous. Army artillery has met these demands with massive firepower, using a wide variety of field pieces. Backed up by armed helicopters and tactical air support. In Vietnam, the Army has learned a great deal about the movement and use of fire support in counter-guerrilla warfare. For artillery, just like the infantry it supports, there are no front lines, no rear areas in Vietnam. The battlefield may be anywhere. Although its battle doctrine is as sound as ever, the artillery found itself fighting under unprecedented combat conditions. From this new experience, artillery evolved a series of lessons learned to help it carry out its mission. Since there is no safe movement between points, artillerymen learn they must maintain maximum security during convoy movement on the ground. Constant, unflagging alertness and battle readiness are musts for survival. Troops must sit or stand facing out, ever watchful. Windshields on jeeps should be down for better all-around visibility. For the same reason, canvas covers should be off trucks, and truck floors should be sandbagged for protection against enemy mines. Keep tailgates down for instant offloading in case of ambush. Vigilance must never be relaxed. Viet Cong often infiltrate the local population. Open country may conceal ambush sites. Snipers may be hiding in built-up areas. Convoy movement should be made under air cover of either rotary or fixed-wing aircraft. These flying eyes should remain on station until the movement is completed. Scouting ahead of the convoy, they look for breaks in the road, for blown bridges, or for large gatherings of people that suggest a hostile force. These aircraft should carry a trained artillery forward observer to look for potential ambush sites and adjust pre-planned fires on targets along the route of march. In this most mobile of wars, artillery must fly to keep up with the air mobile infantry to give it timely fire support. This is taught a loading lesson. Keep weight down for maximum air mobility. This section has loaded its section equipment and personal gear on the howitzer for a single unloading operation at the landing zone. The prime mover for heavy equipment is the Chinook. This helicopter can airlift a 105 millimeter howitzer intact, plus a minimum of personnel and ammunition, or 150 rounds of ammo or other supplies. As a principle, during air assault, artillery is emplaced in advance. The battery commander goes forward with his infantry protecting force. The battery itself follows within minutes. During those few minutes, the battery commander selects gun positions and strong points for their defense. Another lesson learned is this: be prepared to fire in any direction. The enemy has shown time and again that he may attack from any side. So perimeter security must be a full 360 degrees. To establish it, artillerymen must dig in just like riflemen. Be prepared to use the howitzer in a direct fire role. Most times, a small detachment of infantry is provided for battery protection. But the cannoneer must always be ready to act as a rifleman. An old lesson given new meaning is to keep personal weapons clean and combat ready. This necessary task should not be an excuse for relaxing security. A good policy is to have one half of the men clean their weapons, while the other half remains on the alert. Keeping artillery pieces clean is especially important in Vietnam because high humidity increases the danger of rust and malfunction. Combat is no excuse for improper storage of ammo and fuses. They should be undercover and stored off the ground for protection against all weather conditions. Store white phosphorus shells upright. If not, the heavier chemicals gravitate to the lower part of the shell, causing erratic trajectories in flight. This battery position is a negative lesson in proper discipline. Note the litter of powder bags and the lack of a tarpaulin over this ammo. Such carelessness will show in poor battery performance. The 105 is the acknowledged workhorse of the artillery. It has all-weather capability and is light in weight, accurate and rugged. It has met artillery's needs for great flexibility in counter-guerrilla operations. One of the lessons of unconventional warfare is to stress pre-planned fires, especially on known and suspected enemy targets, avenues of approach and withdrawal, and landing zones. Another important lesson is that artillery fire support must often be placed within 50 meters of friendly lines when the enemy is engaged at close quarters. This calls for the highest precision in gunnery procedures. The gunner and assistant gunner must be alert. Bubbles must be checked constantly to make sure they are level. Accuracy in deflection and quadrant is crucial to avoid rounds falling on friendly troops or innocent civilians in the battle area. Giving fire orders in the battery position by telephone instead of voice has proved highly desirable in combat. A lesson learned is that someone must be on the phone at all times to ensure swift response when a call for fire support comes in from the infantry. A new artillery piece that has proved itself in the field is the M102, a lightweight 105 millimeter howitzer. An additional feature is its 400 mil traverse capability. This permits rapid traverse to fire in any direction of the compass. Fire direction center techniques must be changed accordingly. Charts are now set up to take advantage of the 102 howitzer's 400 mil sector of fire. Another lesson this war teaches is how much the use of fuses is determined by terrain. For open country, like this through which friendly troops are now seen advancing, the VT fuse has the greatest casualty producing effect. The fuse goes off automatically 20 meters above the ground, and shell fragments sprayed down on the enemy. Thick jungle canopy calls for fuse delay. This gives the shell a chance to pierce the heavy foliage before exploding. Fuse quick causes the shell to burst on impact. It is most effective against shallow tunnels, light foliage, and huts. Heavier artillery is employed to provide long-range, highly destructive fires in support of maneuver forces. The war has provided new lessons in the use of helicopter gunships and tactical air support to supplement artillery. For the first time, the helicopter has been used in combat as a gunship. It is armed with a variety of weapons. One version has 2 rocket pods with 7 rockets in each pod. Another version is the aerial artillery helicopter, carrying a total of 48 rockets. The gunships have proved outstanding in delivering suppressing fire on the enemy during troop lifts in or out of landing zones, and during resupply and evacuation of wounded by helicopter. They may also carry 20-millimeter cannon or as many as 4 machine guns, coaxially mounted. The guns automatically home in wherever the sight is pointed. New lessons have been learned in the need for accuracy and timeliness in tactical airstrikes in support of friendly forces. A variety of fighter-bomber aircraft, mostly jets, but including the propeller-driven A-1E, is on call around the clock to strike with high-explosive, napalm, cannon, and rockets. Normally, jets can be on station anywhere in South Vietnam within 15 minutes of a request for close air support. A vital lesson learned is the need for precise coordination between artillery and aircraft. Whenever ground troops need more fire support than their organic artillery, the artilleryman must specify approach paths to the aircraft. He must also stop his artillery fire at the right moment so that it will not endanger friendly planes. The United States is in complete control of the air over Vietnam. Nonetheless, to protect our installations against surprise aerial attack by the enemy, the artillery has emplaced batteries of Hawk surface-to-air missiles at strategic locations. They are on alert around the clock. A lesson relearned in Vietnam is that pre-planning is of the utmost importance in coordinating fire support with infantry operations. Coordination starts at the highest level. The senior artillery officer works with the task force commander in setting fire support priorities. This coordination must be followed at all levels down to the company, where the artillery forward observer works directly alongside the infantry company commander. Still another lesson learned is that artillery officers stay in touch with local Vietnamese troop commanders, whose operations may be highly scattered and decentralized. Also with natives in the area, coordinating with province, village, and hamlet chiefs. Here the burden falls heavily on the artillery liaison officer and forward observer. They must know the location of friendly elements in the area to avoid firing on them. Indiscriminate use of firepower will hurt our cause and help the enemy. By and large, target acquisition is the biggest problem of the forward observer. The broken terrain, overrun by heavy undergrowth, makes ground observation difficult. This holds true for these friendly troops who are trying to pinpoint the elusive, well-concealed enemy to bring effective fire on him. Therefore, the FO must be prepared to adjust by sound rather than sight. For close-in support, a fresh lesson learned is that the first round fired should be white phosphorus. Its greater visibility against a green background makes it easier for the FO to adjust fires. The problem of target distinction between friendly and hostile forces becomes even greater when the infantry calls for fire support, sometimes less than 50 meters from its lines. For this extreme kind of close-in support, forward observers have learned that creeping fires can bring artillery fire close to friendly lines while minimizing chances of hitting our troops. During an air assault, the FO is among the first to move into an LZ. He is also among the last to leave, so that he can continue to call in suppressive fires on the enemy if necessary. FOs may not be available at all times. A lesson relearned in Vietnam is that platoon and squad leaders should have general training in how to call in artillery fires. Technology has eased the problem of target detection in Vietnam. There are many radars deployed with our forces, one of which is the AN/TPS-33 ground surveillance radar. The difficulties of ground observation have enlarged the role of the airborne forward observer. In many cases, artillery adjustment is necessary from the air until the ground observer can see or hear the burst. The Air Force counterpart to the FO is the FAC, a member of the Forward Air Control Team. The efficient response in Vietnam to requests for aerial fire support is due in great part to FAC training in ground force fire support needs, plus the swift response of the Direct Air Support Center. The Air Force has demonstrated high-quality performance. When friendly forces call for bombing and napalm strikes as close as 100 meters, bomb runs must be made with pinpoint precision. Normally, the FAC on the ground or airborne guides fighter bombers to their targets. It is important to know the precise locations of friendly and hostile forces and to communicate this information to pilots in the air before they start their bomb runs. This has re-emphasized the utility of simple markers like smoke and panels to pinpoint friendly forces and indicate the direction of the enemy. A lesson relearned in Vietnam is the importance of reliable radio communications for artillery as well as infantry. Experience has confirmed the need for a new family of radios with extended range and more voice channels, which we now have in the field. For antennas tall enough for FM line-of-sight transmission to stations masked by jungle vegetation. Artillery must apply the lesson of good communications discipline. The enemy has listening and jamming capabilities and uses them. Artillery nets should be monitored at all times. Transmissions must be short and to the point with maximum security observed. The air-ground frequency should be common knowledge to friendly troops on the ground. Of all the lessons learned by artillery in Vietnam, none is more worthy of reiteration than the need to maintain maximum security. This lesson is most important on the battlefield, where a stealthy enemy may strike from any and all sides. This combat sequence, filmed under fire, drives this lesson home. The proud cannoneer must accept the fact that fighting as an infantryman must become second nature when it is necessary to protect himself, his gun, and his mission. He must be well dug in along a 360-degree defensive perimeter and maintain a constant state of alert without the slightest let-up. He must be prepared to answer enemy small arms fire with a well-aimed volume of fire of his own, using all weapons. Most important, he must be ready to use his howitzers in direct fire at point-blank range. He must be prepared to move out in aggressive counterattack, for experience has shown that the Viet Cong tend to break off an attack when resistance is not only spirited, but when you carry the fight to the enemy. The payoff is victory. The enemy has paid dearly. Captured weapons and Viet Cong dead indicate the extent of the enemy rout. The victory is not without cost to us. Some of the guns have been riddled by enemy fire. Vehicles too, but the defense stood firm. Shoot, move, communicate. The artillery's classic role is as true as ever. But combat in Vietnam has produced new lessons in security, coordination, target acquisition, and close fire support. With these lessons learned, plus the lessons we are still learning, the artilleryman can cope successfully with a difficult enemy in a difficult environment.